And those who had saved with money came to buy with cash. When the cash ran out, what happened? They brought their livestock and they sold their livestock to Joseph to get grain. And then what happened after the livestock were sold? They went to Joseph and said, hey, we don't have livestock. It's the cost of our democracy. That's how I call it. The economic challenges we see and the corruption we see as a country is the cost of the democracy. It's the cost we pay for democracy in Ghana. In other countries where you don't have these economic downturns, they have dictatorships. And that is a different thing that we don't want in Ghana. So how do you prepare for the next one? And then the one after that? Because guess what? If you are under 40 years, you probably see the next maybe 3 or 4 economic crises. How do you ensure that your financial wealth is able to withstand that going forward? Okay. At the end of the day, there was only one family that survived Joseph. And that was the family of the chief priest. Because he was getting the food allocation from Joseph for free. Every other person ended up selling their whole land. And at the end of the day, when the 7 years of famine was over, Joseph said one simple thing. I'll give you the land to plant on. 20% of the profits, 20% of your gross income comes to Pharaoh. 80% you can keep for yourself. They were in servitude for the rest of their lives because they hadn't prepared for the period of famine. And a lot of us have seen our wealth wiped out as a result of the current economic crisis we are going through. We've seen our savings wiped out because we haven't prepared for the crisis. And we haven't prepared for the next one, and then the one after that, and the one after that either. So the next slide. There are 2 parts to this. I touched on borrowing first because I know people who don't like borrowing. They don't like to be in debt. The Bible says the rich will rule over the poor, and the borrower becomes the lender's slave. Proverbs 22 verse 7. And then it also says that it is better for you not to vow than to vow and not pay. That's in Ecclesiastes 5 verse 5. People I know have told me they don't like to borrow. Me, I like to borrow. I like to borrow because it is the fastest way to build wealth. But there are rules to borrowing. Don't borrow for personal consumption. Borrow for investment. And I'll say this, sometimes we don't know how to quantify investments when it comes to borrowing. For example, let's assume you're staying in Dodowa. You need to come to Accra every day. You come with public transport. It takes you, 1, you have to leave the house at 5:30. 2, it takes you 2 hours to get into town. 3, you end up spending another 3 hours to get home after work, vacation. Okay, or better still, don't take a loan to go into a wedding. Okay. It's avoid taking loans for personal consumptions that do not give you a return on time or a return on investment. And we will talk about this, we can speak to this when we get to the questions and everything else. Secondly, avoid loan sharks. There's a huge craze on loan sharks now thanks to technology. Bank of Ghana brought out a list of apps recently, and I was surprised to see Fufu Cash and then a few other interesting apps that people you can go and borrow 1,000 cedis, 2,000 cedis, and they are charging you 20% per week. Those are loan sharks. You go and borrow 1,000 cedis, and at the end of 2 weeks, you are supposed to pay 1,200 cedis or 1,500 cedis. And what they do is they give you the loan free because they know they can get you to pay. I was in the office the other day when one of my subordinates got a call from a loan shark. They said, "Go and tell this your friend he owes us money. He should come and pay." And he was like, "How do you get my number in the first place?" They use your social media data. They have you on Facebook. You have your friends' network. If you are lucky enough to have displayed so much information, including your phone numbers and your contact details, they will find ways of mining the social media data to get to your friends to disgrace you. To the extent that sometimes we drive through town, you see on someone's wall, can't go and pay your loan to Quick Loans or to this person or to that, you owe money here and there. Those are loan sharks. Loan sharks are not the kind of people you want to borrow from. The interest rate is a killer. You cannot make any return on that kind of interest rate to get you into building wealth. So avoid loan sharks. And then also don't be quick to give or to put up collateral for others. If someone comes to you to borrow money from you, my personal advice is this: only lend the amount you can afford to lose. So someone called me the other day and said, Joojo, I need 100,000 cedis. I have to clear some goods at the port. I said, oh, I hear you. Unfortunately, I'm not in a position to help you. Because it is not me being stingy. I have worked hard for my money. I have to ensure that I protect that principle. If I give you the money and I cannot afford to lose that 100,000, I would rather put myself in debt. I will put myself more in debt than in economic financial freedom. So I would rather humbly decline to give you that money and tell you that maybe, you know what, the 100,000 I can't give. I can give you 10,000. If that's fine to help you, why not? That I may be able to afford to lose. Okay. I had my welder give me a call. He did my gate for me. He gave me a call and said, boss, I'm clearing my car at the port. I've managed to buy a car, I'm clearing. I need 20,000 cedis to clear the car. I said, oh, 20,000 cedis. I can afford to give you 2,000 cedis. He wanted a loan. I gave him 2,000 CD loan 3 years ago. The money hasn't come yet. So I always tell you, only give loans to family members and friends based on the limit you can afford to lose. And that's a guiding principle. Now, we've talked about saving 20%, 10% of your income. You can take it as 10% of your annual income. Sometimes it's easier looking at it from the annual than from the monthly, because the year you spend the money. Okay. Now that you've saved that amount, you need to do two things. One, you need to protect it. And when I say protect it, I mean more, you need to store the value. Because guess what? 10,000 cedis 10 years ago is worth more than 10,000 cedis today. 10 years ago, the dollar was 1 cedi 50 pesos. Today the dollar is what, 12 cedis. So if you had 10,000 cedis 12 years ago and you kept it in something that stores value, you would be much better off than just having it as 10,000 cedis in your account and that's it. So whatever savings you have, you need to protect it by making sure it stores value. Now, what do you call store of value? Last year, when the economy was depreciating, someone came to me and said, oh boss, I only have 1,000 cedis. How do I save? I told him a simple thing. What are you doing? He said, oh, I'm thinking about building a house. I said, take that 1,000 cedis. Go and buy blocks. It's 3 cedi 50 pesos. Keep it on your building site. As long as you'll not be stolen, you stored value. Because today, those blocks, well, the blocks went to 8 cedi 50 pesos. Now they are down to like 6 cedis or 5 cedis 50 pesos. And they were 3 cedis 50 pesos last year. So when you say store value, you need to think about what you can keep to store value for you. If you have a building, you built a house 30 years ago for $100,000 at that time. Today, it's still worth $100,000. If there's appreciation in value, it's maybe worth $300,000 or more. Now, your basic principle is to first store value. Others will put the money in dollars and store value. But don't forget that the dollar also depreciates or loses value due to inflation. So, if you keep your money in dollars, $1 million 10 years ago was a lot of money. $1 million 50 years ago, they talked in millionaires. The word billionaire didn't exist. Today, people are talking billionaires and even trillions of dollars. Those words did not exist 50 years ago. So even the dollar itself loses value over time. So whatever savings you have, you need to think about it in store value basis. Now I also say that your minimum target return should be 5% in the value terms. When I say 5% in value terms, if you're earning 21% in treasury bills today, if you go and buy T-bills today at 21%, and the CD loses or depreciates by 10%, in value terms you've earned 11% in dollar terms. That is good. But if your value is 21% in CD and in T-bills, and the CD depreciates by 30%, you've lost the value. So you need to target 5% in real returns. The third thing is to diversify your risk. Okay, is to diversify your risk. So moving on to the next slide. Again, story in Ecclesiastes says this: ship your grain across the sea. After many days you may receive a return. So one is to actually try and invest in something. The second part says invest in 7 ventures. Yes, 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. So it's a simple thing. If the Bible is telling you to have 8 different investments, then who am I to tell you to put your money in just fixed deposit? You have to think, you have to spread your risk. And in spreading your risk, there are 2 different things. You have to spread your risk in the type of investments, and then you have to spread your risk in the institution of investments. Okay, if you have fixed deposits and it's in just one institution, you have not diversified your risk. If you have fixed deposits, because we go to a financial sector cleanup. I met someone at a swimming pool in Cape Coast. I was staying in a hotel with a swimming pool instructor. We're chatting and he said, "Oh boss, I have retired and I'm 65 years. Half my pension at the time, that was in 2018, half my pension was in GN Bank. The other half was in Men's Gold."
Wow, that's crazy.
At the time, that was beautiful. At the time we were meeting, he was asking for help to try and get his money out. So, if you are doing fixed deposits, I've written a few things here that you need to look at. But the key thing is, don't have all your funds in just one institution. It's not safe. Regardless of how safe that institution is, it's not safe. Because if per chance something should happen, you will have issues. We had an issue in the US recently when Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. And there was a woman on Twitter who said her company's operating account was in that bank. They had over $250 million in their account, and salaries had to be paid on the Monday, and there was no way to pay her employees' salaries. And she was literally crying because the money was locked up. And that's why the US government stepped in to bail all the depositors. Because in US, the deposit insurance is $250,000. If you go to deposit insurance, it's $250,000. In Ghana, it's 6,000 cedis. So if per chance, the financial institution you have your money in goes down, and you go to Bank of Ghana to get your money back, they have only guaranteed to give you back 6,000 cedis. That is what the law says. So if you are spreading your investments in various fixed deposits with various institutions, don't keep it all in one institution. Secondly, you need to also do a bit of due diligence. The lessons we've all learned, because I also have money locked up in 2 very good savings and loans that are still alive but are dead. For the last 3 years, I've not been able to get my money out of them. I go to the office and it's a nice office. They will tell you stories. Mr. Bannerman, you know the situation. You cannot afford to give you your money back. When you come for my money, you were smiling. Now that I'm coming for my money, you don't want to smile at me. So, what we realize is that do ask for due diligence questions. You've worked hard for your money. If you're going to put in an institution, who are their top 10 depositors? Try and ask for the information. What is the percentage of that against the total money that they have? If the top 10 depositors account for more than 10% of the total deposits in that institution, you're in trouble. If they come for their money, there will be issues. So you need to also make sure one, you are not the largest depositor in that institution. You shouldn't be the largest. Okay? And you need to make sure that the top 10, there's no concentration risk there. Then ask about their loan portfolio as well. You need to make sure that the loans that they are giving, they can give you your money back. You should sit in front of the branch manager. Your money is not big, but you should ask questions. Especially if it's not a bank and it's a savings and loans. You should even ask more questions. Don't be lured by 30% interest or the returns that we're offering to give you. Be very mindful of that. Now the second thing is on treasury bills and bonds. We've all heard about head cuts and haircuts and everything else in between. I would say this. One, there was one point I forgot to make on the first slide. There is no risk-free investment in this world. If anyone tells you that this investment is risk-free, run away. They are lying. So, whatever it is, be very careful and do your analysis. Can the person I'm giving my money to pay me back? That's the first question you should ask in anything also. If you invest in treasury bills, it's not safe. It's not risk-free. You can lose your investments. You can lose your principal, whether treasury bills or bonds. So you need to do your analysis there. If the price goes up, if you bought and the price goes up, you've gained. If you bought and the price goes down, you've lost. You need to have them teach you. When you go and say you want to buy treasury bills, you need to ask them to teach you in what way you can gain money and in what way you can lose money. Each bank, if you ask them, they will teach you what it means. And then you also need to monitor the value. So when the value is going down, you know when to sell and stop your losses. You should also have what we call a stop loss in mind. So for example, you go and buy, you are trading. You buy iPhones to trade. You went to bring in goods from the port. You are selling your iPhones for 10,000 cedis. All of a sudden, someone comes with fresh goods into the market and wants to sell at 8,000 cedis. If someone comes with 9,000 cedis, will you sell? Yes, you stop your losses. Because the price is going down, you want to get rid of your stock very quickly. The same way if you do an investment, you need to monitor. If the price is going down, you need to stop your loss up to a point. I take maybe maximum 5% loss, and then I take my principal and I keep it. It's better than losing the 100% of your principal. So be very mindful of that. Don't be attached to any form of investment. Don't be attached to any form of investment. There are a lot of people who are attached to treasury bills. Since my grandfather's time, you've been doing treasury bills, so I'll continue to do it. And you do it with your eyes closed. Be very mindful of that. The next investment I want to talk about is equities. When you buy an equity or a share in a company, you're actually buying ownership in that company. When you are doing that, you need to ask yourself a simple question. If I'm running the business, how will I go about it? And how do I ensure that that business is actually making a profit? If you have stores in front of your house and you are running a shop, how do you ensure that that shop is making profit? Okay, so that if you are going to buy shares in a company, you don't just buy shares in a company and close your eyes. The very first set of shares I bought, I won't mention the company. I have to be very politically correct. The shares were going for 35 pesos. Before I realized the price had dropped to 25 pesos. Then I realized again it's dropped to 21 pesos. And I said, Joojo, you are being a fool. Yes, well, you've lost so much money. So I sold. And I got my money. Now those shares are 15 pesos. If I had kept them, I would have lost more. Because I wasn't following the company's model. I didn't check. That company's business model, they don't pay a lot of dividends to shareholders. So when they issued, I went to buy at issuance and I lost value. Today, if you want to buy shares in MTN, you need to ask yourself, are they a profitable company? Will they give me return on my investments? How much return am I getting? How much dividends am I getting? At the end of the day, does it meet the minimum 5% target I've set for myself? And if per chance it is not, get out of that investment and move on to another one. Okay, so for shares, if you buy equities, please don't be a passive investor. Join the annual general meetings, try and understand what the company is about, and whatever it is, ask questions. If you are not confident, pull your investment out. Mutual funds are similar to what we have in Ghana. We have the likes of Stanley, EDC, Databank, SAS, all the mutual funds. They are also doing the same thing. They buy shares, they buy bonds. What they do is they collect my 5 CDs, your 10 CDs, they put it together and they buy a big investment pool. It's an easy way to start doing investments, okay, especially if you don't have significant money. But you need to sit with the fund manager and understand what they are investing in. You need to ask them questions. It is not enough to go and give your money to someone for the person to invest for you whilst you are sitting in your bed sleeping. If you do that kind of investment, you will always lose money or lose value. So you have to be an active investor. If by chance the mutual fund is not operating well, you take your money out. If you are tracking the economy and you knew that the economy was in a crisis last year, those who got their monies out of their mutual funds in March last year got 100% of their principal plus the later return they had, they protected it. Those who waited till November last year were crying. Mark-to-market losses and everything else was hitting them because they hadn't acted early. So please, when it comes to mutual fund investments, monitor, read, check, track, stay close. Especially with the financial institutions. Once in a while, I tell people drive to that institution, savings and loans especially. Check the temperature in the banking hall. Are people crying for their money? If they are, also go and queue for yours. I have money stuck in 2 institutions because I delayed in going for it. One of my colleagues came to me and said, Joojo, won't you go for your money? I've gone for mine. And I was like, oh, no, get out of it. It's just a normal run. But guess what? I forgot one thing, the contingent effect. So if one company is going bad and they cannot pay out, company B that is okay and can pay out will struggle because everyone who is stuck in company A will come for their money from company B to go and do their own business. So all of a sudden, the institution that you think should be okay on its own will go down. What happened to First Republic Bank in the US, which also went down, was within 10 hours, they lost $40 billion of deposits. They were losing $1 million of deposits per second as a result of technology. I log on to my bank account, I do transfer from that bank to my another bank account. Within 1 minute, I get a message, my money is safe, it's another institution. Today, you can do that. So all of a sudden, even within where I work, I challenge the models we use and said, you cannot assume that if there's a run on the bank, it will take 30 days. Because of technology, you have to assume a run on the bank will take 2 days. So any bank that's sitting in Ghana does things that if people are queuing for their money, it will take 30 days before there will be issues. Your model is gone. Likewise, on our side as well, you also need to be mindful of that. Check the temperature wherever you've invested and make sure you're fine there. Now, real estate. We all like to do real estate investments. I had a boss in the bank who was an expert at Hall and Chamber. By the time he was leaving the bank, he had over 100 Hall and Chambers in Accra, which he was renting. It's good. It's a very good way of building wealth. But there are also things you need to be mindful of. 1, your location is very key. 2, your target audience. I always tell people that it costs the same amount of money to build at airport as it costs to build at a rig. Cement, give and take a little variance for labor and transport. But cement price is the same, block price is the same, iron are the same. So if you have to do any property investments, pick a location where 1, the rental value kind of is stored in dollar terms. There's someone I heard of who rents a chain of shops. For the last 10 years, he's been taking $500 a month for his stores. Every store, he takes $500 a month. He takes the city equivalent. He hasn't increased the price in 10 years. But guess what? In CD terms, his price has gone up. But if the location of your shop does not store value or command value in real terms, the house that you were renting for 500 cedis last year, now you are renting for 800 cedis. But last year, that 500 cedis was worth maybe $100. Now that 800 cedis is worth maybe $40 or $50. So you've not stored value in real terms. So your property location is very key. Also, you need to choose the right types of tenants. No offense to entrepreneurs and the people running their own business. But if you find a tenant who is a salaried worker, it's a better option for you. You know that their salary will come from a good source. Okay. If you have property, please put some money down for insurance and some money down for maintenance. Don't spend all the rent money as though it's your profit. Insurance is key. There was an incident of an actress in Ghana who I think last year her house burnt down and she didn't have any insurance. You can't go and build her again from scratch. So please, if you have property, even your own house where you're staying, a little insurance. It's very difficult when you are paying the premiums, but protect your investments that you've made. Okay. And then obviously, if you are like my friend who has 100 properties, you need to hire a team of people to be monitoring maintenance, to be collecting the money. It's also good investment. There was a period I worked out of the country, and the person I was renting from had 77 properties that he was renting out. And the average rent was probably maybe $2,000 a month, or 77 properties. And I was like, Joojo, when? Okay. So to what I would call maybe the last principle before we come to Q&A is for the entrepreneurs. If you want to go into business, aside from running stores, which is a part-time hobby for lots of Ghanaians, we have shops, stores in front of our houses. You need to create something that delivers value if you are doing any kind of business. Things that other people want and are willing to pay a price for. And you need to make sure that, I always say one thing, if you're doing a business or a side business, make sure it doesn't become a new job. Okay? Make sure it doesn't become a new job. There are people who get into business thinking of it as an investment, but it turns out to be a job. If you have to spend 5 days a week there, it's a job. It's not an investment. It's not a business investment. Okay, so you need to be very mindful of that. There are a few people in the Bible that I want to stress on as business people that the Bible speaks to. There's Lydia of Thyatira. Paul referred to her. She was a dealer in purple cloth. You find her in Acts chapter 16. Very short story on her, but interesting to look at how she behaves as a business person. And then also there's Abraham, there's Job, and then there's Solomon as well. These are all business people. If you read them not from the spiritual perspective, but from the business or investment perspective, you read their stories, you see it. So to the last slide, this slide I think is something that touches my heart a lot. It says, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Now, in Africa, what we don't do is build generational wealth. And I think it's one thing that, if you've not picked anything, just pick this. How do you leave generational wealth for your children's children? Alright. There's the estate planning side, which is your will and everything else. I'll say one thing. If you don't leave a will, you are being extremely wicked to your children, because you are sowing strife within them to fight over your assets after you are gone. If you do a will and every 5 years update it, because every 5 years your assets may change. You may acquire new property or whatever it is. It's a living document. You don't know when God will call you. And also it protects your wife and your children, especially if your kids are young and the education is at risk if you are not around. In the US, there are popular families, the Rockefeller family, the Kennedys, the Waltons. How did those families create wealth? So the first person who had the money didn't share it among the children. The person built a trust, a family trust, and said, you know what, this trust, any of my descendants who needs money for education, they can come for a soft loan. I'll pay for them to go all the way to university. If you want a PhD, come for a loan. Maybe you pay 0.5% interest per annum. So your education and the education of your generations unborn is catered for because you've made provision for them. Okay? Now, if you want to run a business, bring the idea to the trust. It will be vetted like any other bank would vet it. If it passes the vetting, we'll give you a loan at subsidized interest rate, maybe 1% or 2% for you to start your business. That's how the Rockefeller families and the rest have built generational wealth. So, what would it take? In Africa, you go into our histories, there is Mansa Musa. He was said to be the richest man in the world. Where is his wealth today? It's not been stored. All that you've learned today on financial wealth creation, what would you leave to your generations unborn? There is one bank whose financial statements I was going through, and it shows the top shareholders. And I was surprised to see, I won't mention the family's name, but it was a family trust fund as a shareholder. And when I looked at it, it clicked. This is a Ghanaian family that has set up a fund that has invested in the bank shares for the future generation. So if you are building wealth, how do you ensure that you set up a generational fund that transcends you, such that your children's life is assured? They are given a head start in life. Because if you have been given a head start in life, you may not necessarily be where you are today. I'll pause here for questions.
Wow. This is very revealing. We'll take some questions. If you have questions, can you raise up your hand? Let me see. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Wow. 4. Okay. So I'll start with Prince Didison.
Very much, Mr. Bannerman. This is one of the best presentations I've listened to for a very long time. And I listen to a lot of presentations a week. And I don't know why you're shy, because this is really good. Just to say that I wanted to know, does, you moved from saving to loans all the way to equity and all that, and it's almost like I have a question each of them, but just maybe one is, I don't know if savings still work. Does saving work, like keeping money? I know how you talked about saving it in value, but then if you're not at every time increasing that money for, then what exactly is the money doing in probably a bank or in gold? Or even gold doesn't have much of the value now to be increasing it for you all the time. And so is it not better straight away that you are really investing it if it is a good place? So that's my first question. And I was shocked that Republic Bank in the US went down just because of the rate of withdrawals over a period of like 1 million. Why didn't they just shut down their network so that nobody can withdraw money? That's one of the things I thought about when maybe there's a problem with that. Then the last one is there a possibility to insure your money rather, so that at any time I'm just ensuring the money so that it will not go anywhere, I will get it anytime I want it? Thank you.
Then the second one is on the the family trust. How does it work? Can you elaborate on that one as well? Because it wasn't so clear. If I have this trust, I form a trust, taking care of
it. On your business, then it's actually a job. What if you want to, or you intend to make it your main job sometime in the future? How do you go about it? And how do you balance the two? The second question is about the family trust. How does it work? Does it work on maybe your business? Because with these Rockefellers and those ones, we know that they were known for maybe steel production or something else. So does it work on your own business, or it's just general money saving or something? Thank you.
All right, thank you. So let me put it this way, right? You need to diversify your investments. In diversifying your investments, you need to have a certain percentage, maybe 10%, in what you call very liquid investments. If there's an emergency today, you can access it. If you want to sell a house today because of a health emergency, you can't. You have to probably sell it at 50% of its value. It doesn't make sense. So you need to look at your investment portfolio from that holistic perspective. What is highly liquid for emergency funds? What is long-term funds for your own personal retirement, which may be in 40 years or 30 years? What is medium-term investment for your kids' education? They'll go to university in 10 years, so you're saving money towards that, because what between now and then you can manage, but that university is a big one. Maybe you want to send them to a session university, so you need to save money towards that. So you need to have an investment plan. You need to draw that up for yourself, and a percentage of that needs to be in highly liquid savings. Now, that highly liquid savings could be treasury bills, which you can sell today and get money out, or it could be in a fixed deposit. Okay, but just saving the money and leaving it in your account, not anything, is not ideal. Okay, unless you know that maybe you're building it for a 2-month period to do something, it's not ideal. Now, the withdrawals in Republic Bank, per law, a bank cannot shut its network. Okay, so if customers queue to take their deposits, the regulator instructs you, the bank, to be able to give them their money. So it's not easy for a bank to just say, we'll shut down the network. And in Ghana today, you can do transfers, you can do Momo transfers, bank to bank, bank to Momo. So even today, if there's a run on a bank, people can use their Momo platforms or their phones to move balances. Maybe the bank will limit the maximum you can do per day. In Ghana, maybe it's about 5,000 cedis per day or 10,000 cedis per day. But regardless, technology allows you to move money. And it's the new normal for us, so you can't really assume that will not work. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say insuring the money, but you see, every investment has or needs to be buttressed with risk management. So if you buy a house insurance. If it burns down, you can get your principal back from the insurance company. If you do a fleet of cars, you have Ubers, buy comprehensive insurance on the cars. If it gets stolen, you get your money back. I was lucky enough. There was 7 years ago, I had taxis that were running. 3 of them got stolen within a 2-month period. I went to the insurance company. After 3 months of investigations, they paid me my money. Okay, so insurance is good when you can afford it. Can you insure your deposit in a bank? No. Bank of Ghana has done a general insurance for every account in Ghana, but the limit is 6,000 cedis. You can't insure above that. Okay, so diversifying is a means of risk management, but you can't necessarily buy insurance on the money. Okay. Now, how do you monitor effectively? Sometimes I say monitoring is keeping your ear on the ground. Sometimes it's a simple Google search, adverse media. All right. Other times is the general economy. You know Ghana is going through an economic crisis. If you get up today and go and put your money in a savings and loans, you are taking a much bigger risk than if you go and keep your money in a bank because of the current economic crisis you are going through. So you need to also understand the nature of the economy you are going through before, and that should drive the type of investments you take, because you are operating within an economic environment. If per chance you take your money and go and buy a government bond today, when government is in default on the bonds, then you are throwing your money away. Okay, government have not defaulted on treasury bills, but it's still high risk because they are the same issuer. They are not able to pay on the bonds. The confidence that you have in them paying on your treasury bills, you need to check whether or not it's grounded. Okay, so you need to do that. With the mutual funds as well, it's similar. Sometimes withdrawing your money is testing it. I used to run some fixed deposits in the system with some of the institutions, and when it matures, the government will say, "Oh, why don't you roll over?" I say, "Oh, I have some need for it, so pay it into my account." Then pay it into my bank account. It's not because I need the money. It's to test whether or not there's an issue with them paying me. When GN Bank was going through crisis, there was an Indian businessman who I know. He had 85,000 CDs or 86,000 CDs there. He called his RM to say, "Oh, I want to withdraw the money." The RM said, No, don't withdraw. He said, "You know what? I just want to test the system. So here's a check for 100,000. Transfer the 85 out of the 86,000 into my account so that I know it's fine, and I'll transfer it back so that you can do the investment." Okay, then you present a check so that you do the new investment. He knew the institution was in trouble. So when they transferred the 85 to him, he cancelled the check. He said the 1,000 they can keep it. You understand? I heard all these stories after my money was locked up. So, in preparing for the next crisis, I'm also keeping all these records so that whatever I'm saying here, I'm saying to myself, in case of stress, no institution can survive a run on that institution. So go queue, get your money. If after 2 days you see that it is just fake news, in quotes, you can go and put your money back. You have protected your investments. That's the key thing. I'll come to the family trust operations, but let me touch on the business versus job. So there are people who have their own personal jobs, like you're working for someone, and you start a business on the side. Maybe you are selling drinks, retailing packs of drinks or water or whatever. The point I make is this: if it's an investment, you shouldn't be there for it to run. If you are there 5 days a week, it has become a second job. Okay. If you are there once a week to check the accounts, it's an investment. It's not a job. That's the difference. If you want to set up your own second job, so you stop what you are doing and go and run it on your own, that's different. You can do that. But when you are setting up a second business as an investment, make sure you set it up such that it does not become a second job. Okay. Now, a family trust is something that is interesting. It's a legal document. Once you set up the family trust, it becomes a legal entity on its own. Okay. It's like setting up a company, but it does not work with the same tax rules as a normal company will work. All right, because it's a trust. Now, what you do is, for some of these families, they have a limited number of people who sit on the investment board of the trust. So you can have yourself and your children as the first line sit on the investment board, and you can have an external investment advisor as a consultant who will help advise your investments. In some of the family trusts or some of the family offices, if you can go to that slide, they even have the next one, yes. They have a banker, they have a tax advisor, they have a financial advisor, they have an insurance advisor, they may have a real estate agent, they may have an attorney, they may have advanced tax planning. In some instances, they even go to offshore jurisdictions, tax havens, to set up the entity there. It depends on how much money you have. At this point in time, if you are starting with 100,000, you do what your 100,000 can afford. But when you get to the point where you have 10 million, then they need more advisors to come in to support you in that space. Okay, as I said, my former boss who had 100 hall and chambers, he needed to have people to manage it for him. But if it's just 2 or 3, you can start by managing yourself. Okay. Now, the other bit about the trust is also the guidelines on withdrawals and investments. So there are 2 aspects. Investing the money is one aspect. And what happens in terms of the Rockefellers and the other families is that when the children, having seen the value the trust sets, their own personal savings also went into the trust. Okay, so when they die, their assets go into the trust. When they die, their assets go into, so their assets grew over time. Okay, it's not one business that generates that. It could be different businesses together that you put your wealth together to generate it. One of my bosses met a 50-year-old man in the States. He was in a yacht, a small ship with his family. He asked him, "Say, what do you do?" The man said, "I sold my company, I've retired." He's taking the money, he set up a trust for the rest of his 50 years. He's 50. For the rest of his life on earth, he wants to spend with his family and kids while he has strength. But the trust will be there for his children and his children's children to continue. Now, withdrawals from the trust is also key, because you don't want the money that has been saved in the trust to dwindle or run out quickly. Okay, that's why the money that's being given for educational purposes is given as a loan. So if you, one of the descendants, you need money for your kids' school fees, you can go to the trust and get the money to pay for your kids' school fees, and then pay the trust back so there's money for future generations. Okay, but your descendants have to understand and agree to it. I look at, in terms of succession planning, Abraham did it very well. He left his assets to Isaac. The other children he had on the side, he gave them their own share of inheritance and sent them on their way after Sarah had died. So he did proper succession planning. Jacob and Esau, their father didn't do proper succession planning. So there was a rift between them. Yes, it's biblical, God had a hand in it, but you also need to look at it. David's succession went to Solomon, but Solomon didn't do proper succession planning. So his son came and lost half the kingdom. So succession planning is not just what you leave in terms of value, it's also what you leave in terms of education. That is why it's important that if you are looking at the family trust system, your children become members to learn. They may not even have, in one of the family trusts I read, by the age of 14, you're allowed to attend meetings. So you come to the meetings, the whole family, big family, we do a lot of it here when it comes to funerals. When it comes to funerals, the family will sit. They even form associations. But guess what? The patriarch, who they are all calling as their descendants, they don't have any assets that is giving them income from that perspective. It's just one of my in-law whose family I found different, because when my in-law's father died, they said there's a family fund that they used to bury, so no one will bring money for the funeral. They'll take from the family pool. But that fund, for me, is paying for funerals. It's not paying for education or for investments. So if you want to set your family different, then you should be thinking about how to build that generational wealth and how to pass on the knowledge as well to your children. Okay? So maybe we can take the next set of questions as well.
My name is Musa, and I've been claimed to have roots with Mansa Musa. I'm yet to know. The resources room. Well, I'll start with the last. There's something you've hinted on about building a pool of funds that can get to support others. And I'm wondering if the same strategy can be adopted to an establishment as ours here, that we can get to contribute resources and maybe working with experts like you and other people in our midst, we can get to put it to work and it generates a return as a strategy to self-sustainability. I want to know if it can work. The second point is, you've talked about long-term orientation vis-a-vis our regular crisis. And it is said that one of the major challenges for African development is having short-term horizon. We think just for tomorrow. Now, I know when these cycles are happening, last year the country was in an economic downturn. This year or next year it will pick up. But usually, because of panic, we tend to go and pull out everything and we worsen the situation. So I'm trying to understand, how do we get to strike a balance? And as we try to move from the brick and mortar kind of investment, where everyone will have chamber and hall, rather than investing in something that can have a bigger impact. Thank you.
Moses. So, as an expert, I just want your advice or direction or something for clarity. Moving money from your mobile wallet to your bank account, I just want to know what normally happens, because I was saving with one of the banks, and sometimes you will send the money to the bank and they will deduct the money from your account, but it will not reflect there. Sometimes, like 4 days, if maybe I need the money to do something, if I requested the money from my mobile account, like some of it from my bank account, they will give me like a minimum balance. If I call them, they will say, oh, maybe the 2,000 you sent 4 days today is still in the air because of 1 or 2 reasons. So I was like, so if I don't call you people, they will say, oh, it's good you called. And I said, so if I don't call, so it means it will just be in the air like that. So I don't know if I'm the only one who have been experiencing that. So because of that, dealing with the banks is not really just lose interest. But similar thing happened about 3 days today with MTN Momo. I was there about a week or 2 ago when they sent me some message with big drama. So I called them, what does this message mean? And they were like, I've sent some amount of money to somebody in May, 9th May. And the money I sent to the person received the money, but they didn't deduct it from my mobile wallet. So I said, MTN, the person received the money, but you didn't deduct it from my mobile wallet. They said, yes. How much did I send to the person and who did I send the money to? They said they can't tell me. But something, unless they deduct the money from my mobile before they can answer those questions. So I made my mind like, if I get some small time, I'll go to their branches, any of their branches to verify. I couldn't. I was there 3 days today around 9 a.m. They have deducted 5,000 from my mobile money wallet. So I called them to verify why that happened. They were like, yeah, the message they sent me earlier, that was the money they have deducted. So that too, I was asking them, yes, I was asking them, who did I, now you have deducted the money. Tell me whom I've sent the money to on the 9th of May last month. Before you are deducting it, because if I could remember, even before that, 3 days today, I was having money above that in my wallet, on my wallet. So why? that they said unless I go to their branch before they can. When I went there to queue, so they asked me to request for statements and a whole lot. I couldn't even stand it, so I had to come home and I'm here now. So I want to know what normally happened, or are there some people there that they have been, if we put the monies in accounts, they have been stealing the monies, or they have been raising some. So this is an issue. Thank you.
So my name is Peter William. Please, I would like to know at what point does one need a financial advisor? Then, second, I hear about planning for example, when you become young couples, you are advised to plan for future trips, other future plans, open an account for your kids. If you want to do something, for example, traveling outside for holidays, open an account for it. If you want to go, open an account for it. So sometimes I ask myself, okay, so maybe I should have asked this question at the bank. Do you go to the bank and say the account name is Bonin Plan? Or you go there, I don't know how those plans work at the bank, so please if you can.
There are two hands, I can take them and then
my first question goes this way. Do we have insurance with banks? Let's say I've saved money in the bank. Do I have an insurance with them? Okay. And the next one says situational investments. Situational investments. That has to do with something outside the financial institutions. Myself, because of the economic downturn and the way banks were behaving, I became so skeptical. So I don't keep money in the bank. I don't have any money in the bank. I always think, sometimes I get scared myself because in case of anything, I don't have any money to. You say, let's everybody travel to your hometown. Yes, so when I say situational investment, I mean, let's say this time around, everybody knows that the price of fertilizer is very high. So I gathered the money, go and buy fertilizer and go and invest. At the end of it, if I hear that another thing is booming, I gather the money at that side. That's what I do. So, advice, thank
you. You spoke on diversifying investments. What I've been taught is building your name in one venture first before probably going into other ventures. How would you know when you're comfortable enough to go into additional ventures with what you've already made and make it big time in those ventures, yet still be known for that one business you built as your solo brand? Thank you.
To have common purpose. Okay, so I'll leave that to your negatives. But it's something that you can do. The trust funds, as I said, you could have two brothers or siblings come together to start it at their levels. You can have friends who will come together to start it at their level as well. So it's really up to you on what decisions you take as to how you go about with your pooling funds. In terms of long-term versus short-term, I think that we all need to think long-term. We don't know the number of days God has given us on earth, but we shouldn't assume that those days are short. So we need to prepare for the long term. I also say that do not do what our forefathers did, which is to say that my children are my retirement plan. Rather, do what some of my friends have done, my friends' parents have done. One of my mates, two of my mates, actually, for one, his father called him after university, put two keys down. The first key, the car in the house is yours, you can start using it. The second key, there's a 2-bedroom house at Adenta Flats. Take it, go and start your life. We got married within 1 year after I finished university. It took me 5 or 6 years after university to get married. I didn't have money. His father had given him a head start, you understand? Likewise, another mate of mine, same scenario. The mother gave him an apartment. It was almost completed. He finished it, he moved in. The father gave him the car keys and helped him find a job. He also got married before I did. So you need to think long term, okay? And those two examples I've given, the parents did not rely on their children for their retirement. The parents had their own retirement sorted out. So your children don't need to think about you. They can build their own wealth and move on with their lives as well. In terms of balancing vis-a-vis the economic challenges, there's a lot of reading out there. So I'll say that you need to spread your knowledge a bit and read a bit of economic cycles. My background is not finance. My background is engineering. I learned the finance because I found it interesting. So you need to go into some of these things to read about it. Go on to Google, type the word. You find so much literature around it. Read on it and you'll be fine. Okay. The bank to Momo issues that you have, it's largely reconciliation issues. The institution does not have proper reconciliation. That's why they didn't find the problem until you called them. So you need to probably speak to them and make sure that two things. One, for you personally, you need to make sure that anytime you do a transaction, you verify whether it's gone through. Because that institution may not necessarily have the right reconciliation, so you need to confirm yourself. And then, in terms of the mobile money issues we're talking about, you need to be mindful of the difference between what is fraud and what is an actual transaction. So I would advise that you find some time and go and sit in the office, get your statements, validate. Because if you print your statement, you should show who that transfer was supposed to go to. And if there's an issue, challenge MTN for fraud, so they return your money. If you have a complaint that they are having issues, write to Bank of Ghana. They'll help you get your money out. Okay, but follow through because it's your money. You worked hard for it. You need to be able to track it. All right. In terms of financial advisor, when do you need a financial advisor? At every stage you are in. It depends on what decision you are taking. Okay. If the decision you are taking is about savings accounts and fixed deposits and T-bills, the bank can be your financial advisor. If it's something different, you can go to the mutual fund companies. They have financial advisors that they will speak to you. Go with your list of questions to answer everything. You don't have to invest, it's free advice. So take advantage of it. Okay. Bank insurance, so there are two parts. The bank can sell you life insurance and other products as investments. But then in terms of your money with the bank, it's up to you. If you've invested so much in your personal company and it's generating enough money for you, don't keep putting all your eggs in that basket. Keep some of it in other investments, diversify the risk, just in case your business slows down. You have money saved elsewhere to assist you as well. So thank you. Thank you.
He opened my eyes to see, and I pray that He's going to lift you up further. You articulated so well. Your training was so impactful. All of us have been encouraged. I have a business I've picked, even greater ideas that I'm going to implement because I'm opening a new business which will become another job. So I am very careful about that. So as I'm speaking into your life, that wherever you go, wherever you open your mouth, may you continue to impact the world. And may the Lord continue to lift you up. May you soar like an eagle. And may His blood continue to speak for you. Preservation, protection, good health, and above all, favor. God bless you. Amen. Keep standing. The ladies of the fellowship want to do a presentation.
Mr. Joojo Bannerman, on behalf of our national president, on behalf of our field representatives and our chapter president, we say a very big thank you for taking time off your busy schedules to address us. Presented to Mr. Joojo Bannerman in appreciation of your significant impact on the financial market, driving sales in industries across Africa and mentoring young people. Thank you so much.
Thank you.